Another reason why July 1st might not be as prominent is we're seeing the Warriors lose to the Suns last night.
Yeah.
The narrative that the Celtics helped feed, that DeMarcus Cousins is a defensive liability and may not be helpful on that, not only on that side of things once the playoff hits, but give them two players that can be easily triggered in a playoff situation. Also, a lip reader's delight on Twitter last night of Steve Kerr saying something profane about being sick of Draymond's you-know-what, and it sure looks like that. So do we see right now a Warriors team that is there for the taking, do you think?
I think they are certainly more vulnerable than they've been at any point in the last few years, including last year when they were down 3-2, for the reasons you kind of articulated there. First, there are clearly, it's not as tight a locker room as it's been in the past. The Kevin Durant stuff has obviously worn on that team. Draymond Green is a lot to deal with. Like, he is still the heart and soul of that team, but he is a lot over the course of an 82-game season because of how emotional he gets out there on the floor. And this is a season where he's only shooting about 25% from three, so he's been far less effective in his time out there on the floor. So the internal stuff is a factor. But to your point about DeMarcus Cousins, he's playing like 25, 30 minutes per game right now for Golden State. He can't play that many minutes in the playoffs. You can use the rest of the regular season as a glorified kind of preseason for Cousins, try to work things out and get him into the kind of shape you need him in the playoffs. But everything I've seen from watching the Warriors and talking to coaches that have played the Warriors, and you saw the Celtic game, when he's out there on the floor, they go at him immediately, pick and rolls, any kind of switching that gets him out there on the floor. And who's the biggest threat to Golden State? It's Houston, right? The Rockets
seemingly
continue to be the biggest threat to Golden State. What do they do well? Get you on a switch and play pick and roll. They've got two elite pick and roll type players in James Harden and Chris Paul, and they're just going to go at DeMarcus Cousins all day long. So what happens in that series if you can't play Cousins? How does Cousins handle it? Does that contribute to any kind of strife in the locker room? I think there are just a lot of warning signs about this Golden State team.
What about the East, too? I mean, Tobias Harris seems to be fitting in very well with a Sixers team that gets Embiid back. He looked terrific. We all know what the Bucks have looked like. They're the only 50-win team currently in the association. The Raptors and the Pacers might fall off a little bit here. The Pistons are coming on strong. You think that they have an opportunity here in the Western Conference when they meet up in the NBA Finals?
In the East?
Yeah, the East. Can the East pull it together and win the...
Oh, absolutely. Look, Boston's 4-4 against Golden State in the last, 4 years. They play them as well as anybody because they can switch on all those Golden State players. But the Eastern Conference, 1 through 4, and I hate taking Indiana out because they've been such an overachiever, but you can't count on them to win the playoffs. Indiana didn't have a single representative at All-Star Weekend. Oladipo would have been that guy,
sure,
but they didn't have anybody in the futures game or the skills competition. They had nobody representing them. So a team without that type of talent, it's problematic. But any one of those top 4 teams, including Philadelphia, can make a run throughout the playoffs. And that's why a team like Boston has not been looking around saying, man, we got to get that 3 seed. We can't fall into that 5 seed. All they want to do is be playing good basketball going into the playoffs because they can win anywhere. And there isn't a boogeyman atop that conference. I mean, Milwaukee's been leading for a while, but there are a lot of people in the league that look at the Bucks as being a great regular season team, but some question marks in the playoffs. A lot of guys haven't been there before, at least not deep into the postseason, and they play Brook Lopez a lot. And Brook Lopez has been great for their defense in the regular season. A lot of scouts I talk to wonder how good he's going to be in the playoffs. And Toronto. I mean, Toronto should be the favorite because of their postseason experience and the fact they've only lost to Cleveland over the last few years. But they're a team certainly with some young guys that you aren't entirely sure about. So I think the Eastern Conference from the second round on is going to be an absolute street fight with so much at stake, too. Like, if Toronto loses in the second round, does that affect Kawhi Leonard? Does he stay if they go to the finals? Does he leave, he lose the second round? What about Philadelphia? They're about to have the richest payroll, maybe in the history of basketball, if they bring everybody back. Do they want to do that if they get beaten the first round by a Celtics team? There's so much on the line, both for this season and seasons beyond the Eastern Conference playoffs.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.